Hi, my name's Michelle. I'm doing a few videos on what life is like with an NJ tube. And today I'm doing a bit of a summary as I've been on my tube for 4 months now on the good, the bad, and the ugly. So this is a warts and all video on what life is like with an NJ tube. If you're squeamish, it's not the video for you because I'm going to talk about some symptoms. And just a reminder too, I'm just a patient. I am not a medical professional. So this is just, my experience. Your experiences could be different, and everybody is different. So please listen to your doctors over anything I say. And if you do like these videos, please give me a like and subscribe to my channel so I know they're helpful. So let's get into it. What's good about the NJ tube? First and foremost, this NJ tube has been quite literally a physical lifeline for me. Before I got the tube in, I was terribly malnourished, practically bedridden, and I was passing out up to 3 times a day, just with the fatigue and dehydration of not being able to eat or drink anything. And it made managing my type 1 diabetes incredibly difficult because I couldn't keep anything in. So, trying to control your blood sugars with a body that kept rejecting any carbohydrates going into it is a challenge. So, yeah, absolute top good is I can get hydration and nutrition into me even on a bad stomach day. So that's just been incredible. And yeah, it's given me back my quality of life. So the bad is probably three things. The way it feels, the adjustment period, and there is an element of fatigue. So the way it feels luckily goes away after a couple of days. Your body does get used to it, but for the first few days, it feels quite awful. I quite literally hated it. Every time I moved my neck, it was pressing on my gag reflex. I felt like I wanted to throw up. It was really unpleasant. And it can be a bit uncomfortable in your nose too. Luckily, the body gets used to this, and you can't feel it after sort of 3 to 5 days. It completely goes away. The only time I feel it now is when I'm like trying to exercise. If I'm doing yoga or something like that, and I try a strange position that I haven't been in yet, and the tube moves, I can sort of feel that, and yeah, feels unpleasant, but I am used to it now. Um, the adjustment period was the second one I listed for the bad, and that is really about diarrhea. Feeding straight into your duodenum is something that the body takes some time to get used to. So you will likely have, more diarrhea than you've ever had in your entire life while your body gets used to this thing. Luckily that also goes away. Your body does get used to it. Doing things like doing your flushes slow as well can help because if you put the flush through too quick, that can cause diarrhea and also a bit of discomfort. Um, so luckily that does eventually get much better. But it just, it was an adjustment period. And then the third is fatigue. So while I said this gave me back my energy and my quality of life, and it certainly did, there are fatiguing factors with being on the NJ tube. I mostly feed overnight, so if anything goes wrong, if the tube gets blocked or things like that, there's alarms going off in the middle of the night that wake you up. You've got diarrhea going on with all that, so you're up and down to the toilet several times a night. And then with me, I've got type 1 diabetes as well, so if I haven't managed my blood sugars perfectly, then that's also going to be waking me up in the night with highs or lows. So whilst I've got so much of my energy back, there are some things that do keep you a bit tired while you're on this. And finally, I'll talk a little bit about the ugly. So, first things first, this, not the most attractive look I've ever rocked in my entire life. And while I wouldn't go so far as to call it ugly, I'd say that, yeah, not particularly pleasant having this strapped to your face all the time. You do get some pretty, mostly entertaining reactions. I think my favorite was watching this poor mother completely embarrassed as her kid started very loudly asking her what was wrong with me. Um, so a way I've mostly dealt with that is just to be really open and honest and willing to have a conversation about it, answer any questions and just chat to people. Um, because yeah, it's not something they see every day. And you do get quite a few people asking you about it. With the ugly, the next thing I'd probably talk about would be vomiting. Vomiting gently so you don't accidentally throw up your tube is a life skill I never thought I'd need to develop. Um, and yeah, just vomiting in general when you've already got something in your throat, feeling like there's other things stuck behind your throat is, yeah, just not a pleasant situation. And then the third thing I'd probably say that falls into the ugly category is boogers. And this is probably something I get asked about the most is sort of, how do you deal with boogers, with something hanging out your nose? So yes, they do stick to the tube. Yes, they do accumulate behind the tube, and blowing your nose when you've got a cold takes a lot more effort when you have an NJ tube in. Um, and I'd say that, just because you've always got something hanging out your nose, you lose that ability to know whether or not you might have a booger hanging out your nose. So I've sort of taken to having like a pocket mirror that I carry in my bag so I can just do a visual check every now and again, because my first couple of weeks I was really quite self-conscious and always kind of checking. So yeah, that's my warts and all summary of what life is like with an NJ tube. I hope you found it helpful, and thanks very much for watching.